I didn't want to do, and I think this is what a lot of mistakes that a lot of digital nomads do, is they try to do a little bit of everything. Like, oh, we can do social media management, and we can do planning, and we can write articles, and we can do blogs and websites. We focus specifically on social media. That's all we do. And my team is mainly Romanian and Thai. People that I know, friends that I've made, who all were freelancers. So what I noticed is that people prefer to be freelance. And if you can give them consistent work, they're okay with taking a little bit less than their rate. But
all right, we are recording. Today I have on Erick Prince. He is the founder of Minority Nomad, where he does video logs on his travels all across the world, his work as a marketer running his own company, and why he decided to choose the lifestyle that he has now. So Erick, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, bro.
Definitely. I'm super excited to talk to you because, as we just were talking a little before the call, you are running a marketing company, traveling all over the world. You have apartments in different countries. So you're doing a lot of stuff that a lot of people would like to do in the future. I want to start off with this question, though. This is just a softball. The underhand pitch is, what are you working on right now that you're most excited about, and why is that?
Before we started talking, I told you had the exclusive on this story because I haven't even announced this to my audience yet. But I'm putting together a trip around the world for about a year and a half. I want to be on the road. So I've been stationary in Bangkok for about 2 years now, getting my digital marketing company up and running and grinding. One of the things that happened when I was traveling, I traveled full time for 3 years. So when I was on the road, I would get these small digital marketing gigs. I would do social media management, marketing planning, different things for companies. But it was difficult doing that and constantly moving because you don't know how your Wi-Fi is going to be, the time zone. Sometimes you get stuck on a bus and you don't get a SIM card in time. So it was chaos. So I put up a base in Bangkok, and then everything just kind of came together because when you're stationary, you can get a routine, you can kind of get a groove, and you can kind of train your clients to your work schedule. So now that all of that's come together, I felt it's time to hit the road again, Nice. So I'll be on the road for about a year and a half, man.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm excited, man. I'm so excited to get back on the road, man. I love the road life.
That's wild because before, you were saying that like it's hard, just picking up the digital marketing gigs when you're nomadic. So you stayed in Bangkok, built up this company. What are you managing like virtual assistants and team members now, or are you still doing this all on your own? Are you going to be doing it on your own when you're on the road?
A little bit of both. So our biggest thing is social media management right now. What I didn't want to do, and I think this is what a lot of mistakes that a lot of digital nomads do, is they try to do a little bit of everything. Like, oh, we can do social media management, and we can do planning, and we can write articles, and we can do blogs and websites. We focus specifically on social media. That's all we do. And my team is mainly Romanian and Thai. People that I know, friends that I've made, who all were freelancers. So what I noticed is that people prefer to be freelance. And if you can give them consistent work, they're okay with taking a little bit less than their rate. But so normally somebody's rate will be $150 to $200 an hour. If you could get them consistent work, they're okay with taking $100 to $75 an hour instead. So I put that together, and I have teams in different regions. So for example, I have a team in the United States that does my US clients, team in Asia that does my Asia clients, team in Europe that does my Europe clients. We haven't branched out in South America yet, but this round the world trip, I'm hoping to meet some contacts down there to do that. So the only thing that I do now, aside from acquisitions, is I do content approval. So no piece of content goes out to our clients without me actually looking at it and approving it.
Okay. That makes sense. That's pretty exciting. So you said you met these guys on the road. I like that they're taking this approach to, they want to maintain freelance, but they're basically doing it for a salary, like unofficial. I love that. How did you recruit these people? Did you find them on a freelance place first, or were they people you found that were already freelancing that you became friends with? And you're like, you know what, I got this thing going on. I can push you these clients.
Yeah, really. This is pretty much the second half. I can't say I found everybody the same way. For example, Jared. Jared is my website guy. I've known Jared, oh my God, I know Jared before Minority Nomad. We met about a month before Minority Nomad came to be, and he actually created Minority Nomad. And he's actually in charge of our advertising. So he does, he was the one who taught me Google AdWords and Facebook marketing. And we've known each other forever. He literally created my first website. Outside of that, a lot of my managers are people that I just ran into, either other travelers, people. One girl, I couch surfed with her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm working for this company. I do other social media." I'm like, "Hey, you want to work with me?" Because So it's just about, I believe in being in the right place. Just if you move forward, you'll find people to move forward with you. And if you're constantly moving in different crowds and areas, you're going to find the people to help you fulfill your dream. And I think that's kind of my gift. I'm an extrovert. I talk to everybody about everything. I have friends who are chefs. I have friends who are writers. I have friends who are photographers, friends who are politicians from all around the world. It's just about being out there interacting with people. So most of my team, just people that I met through my travels.
I love that because there's so much bad literature on networking, and it's like that should just replace that word with making friends. I feel like.
Yeah, just be cool, man. I think I hate the word. I don't say I hate the word networking. I just don't like when people push the networking events and programs. I'm like, look, man, just be cool. Just be a normal human being and learn how to interact. And I think times are changing because I'm 35. So I grew up where you learn how to interact with other people, where there's the idea of just being at home on the internet is not a thing for us. But I think this new generation, the 22, 23-year-olds who are growing up now wanting to become digital nomads, a lot of them don't have the networking and people skills. Like a lot of my clients that I got early on was from handshakes, from tour operators, hoteliers, restaurant chefs that I just shook hands. One of my best clients is a chef. He's one of the best chefs in Asia. We're friends. We just became friends. I was like, hey, let me do your social media for you. He's like, yeah, all right, cool. That was it. I mean, like people make this kind of, they make this lifestyle and marketing and networking to be far more complicated than it is.
Yeah, I think especially for business, like face-to-face sales is not going anywhere. So I think that's an important skill. Especially if you're trying to run an agency and you're eventually signing big contracts. It's like you better be able to have a meeting with someone.
People work with who they like. I mean, if you can produce, I mean, that's the great equalizer. There are so many digital marketing companies and ad agencies and people who want to do all these different things. But when it comes down to it, it's like, who do I want to work with? Who do I want to talk to on a regular basis? Who do I want to call when something goes wrong? Who can I trust? Who can I trust to have my best interests at heart? And it's usually somebody that you know. Like people say, don't do business with your friends. I totally disagree with that. Because if business goes wrong with friends, it's because you weren't really friends to begin with. Like my best business deals have always been with people that I'm cool with, I'm friends with, who look out for me and I look out for them. But that might be the old school in me. I don't know.
I don't know. I've heard that too, though. I've heard that both ways. People saying like, "Oh, never," and then like only first people to look for are your friends. I don't know. I've always had success with friends as well.
Always.
Always. So you mentioned, I forgot where I saw this. I don't know if it was a personal blog or one of your videos, but that you used to be in the Army. What did you do there, and how long were you?
Air Force. Big mistake. Don't make that mistake.
Ooh. I gotta watch my son. Okay. So yeah, what did you do in the Air Force, and how long were you in for? Was this like a whole career you had before you started this?
No. So when I was in the Air Force, I was trained as an aircraft mechanic. I joined the Air Force before 9/11, right before September 11th. So that January, I was trained as an aircraft mechanic on C-130s actually. C-130, C-17s. And then after the war started, they didn't have enough cops. Like we didn't have enough security forces at MP. So pretty much all single guys who could shoot, they made us augmentees. So I got cross-trained to be security forces as well. So I was a cop and an aircraft mechanic when I was in the military. So sometimes I would deploy as a cop, and then sometimes I would deploy as a aircraft mechanic.
Oh, wow. That is a lot of different stuff. The Air Force got their money out of you. That's a lot of stuff to learn.
Yeah, they did. That's why I got my money out of them. I got every degree and certificate I can get.
Yeah, it works both ways for sure. Glad to hear that. So How did you, was there just one day where you were cranking away on a plane, like working on a C-130, and you know what? You're like, I'm going to be a digital nomad. Like, how did this evolve in your head? Because it's obviously very different lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, specifically, being a digital nomad it was really like an accident. So I left the military at 10 and a half years. So, the thing about the military is either you do 20 or you walk away close to 10. So I was at that crux. And the thing for me was I was bored and I was just tired of getting shot at for it. Like, it was just, because I came up, the military is a different place now than it was. Like, people really forget what the military was like in the early 2000s, during the war, it was crazy. It was, so I left at 10 and a half years and I went back to University of Texas there in Longhorns. And I was studying government history and English. I was planning to go to law school. That was the actual plan, to be an entertainment lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And as time went on, I was doing a dissertation on the effects of government legislation on minority communities, because clearly I'm Black.
Well, I saw your interview with the Romanian scholar. I was going to ask later, but
yeah, Ian Hancock. Yeah. So that's kind of where my work started to kind of push me. And I started to realize how marginalized communities exist around the world. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to create something that helps kids who came up like me. Photography is what saved my life. It really helped me get out of the marginalized community that I came up in. So I wanted to kind of give back. So I started a small foundation where I donate passports to low-income kids, and I teach them about photography. When we were trying to get funding for this, so many organizations and companies and individuals were saying, well, we don't know if this is going to really be worth it. Not a lot of African Americans travel based on our research, which is true, statistically speaking, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm stubborn. I tend to be a stubborn guy. Mm-hmm. So I said, to hell with all of you, I'm going to go do it myself. So I took a contract job with the Department of Motor Vehicles in Texas. And I saved a little over $19,000, and I sold everything, and I hit the road. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I had a one-way ticket to London, and that was that. And I literally have not been back. This was 2012. Yeah, 2012. 6 years.
Wow.
And that's it. Literally, everything else. The digital marketing company, trying to go to every country in the world. None of this stuff was on my plate 6 years ago. None of it. This all just happened through travel.
Oh man, I have so many questions about that. I have two big ones. I'll start with the easier one first. You said you saved $19,000 on a contract job with the Department of Motor Vehicles in Texas. Did you have a lot saved up from the Air Force, or did you kind of start from scratch getting out and you had to save that big chunk and then go and do this?
You know what? I want to say I had around. Ooh, that's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that question. I don't think I've ever really thought about it. Yeah. I want to say, because the reason I remember 19,000 is because that's how much money I hit the road with. That's how much money I had when I hit the road. But I know damn well I did not save that much in a 7-month contract period. So I want to say I had to have around 6 to 7 already. Okay. Around 6 to 7 already in savings from when I was in the Air Force. Yeah.
Wow. And then you just saved over 10 grand in another 7-8 months, and we're off.
That's 7 months. Yeah. And that was and that was the cool thing about being in the military. So I have a degree in occupational education from the Air Force. That was the cool thing about the military. They loved paying for school. If you wanted to get educated in the military, they were great about it. So I ended up getting my degree in occupational education, meaning I can pretty much teach anything to anybody. It's a system. And at the time, the Department of Motor Vehicles was looking for a training specialist. And the good thing about the state of Texas, they have preferential hiring for military veterans. Okay. So I saw that. And when I went in for the interview, I actually presented them a training plan, an actual layout, because they didn't even have one. I found out through a friend, they had no training program. So people make fun of the Department of Motor Vehicles, why it's so bad. It's because they didn't have any training. No training program. Everything they did was always OJT, on the job training. So what I did was I came in and I pitched this to them. I went into my interview like a pitch. So I went in and pitched an actual program to them and said, we can create a formalized training system, a tracking system, not only for new employees, but also established employees. Because one of the issues that a lot of companies don't realize is that when you have somebody who's been in a job for 15, 16 years, they usually don't do things by the book. Yeah. So they've learned a different way. So I created also a program to evaluate everybody in the Department of Motor Vehicles, customer service division specifically. And like they picked it up, and I actually, it was a specific contract, and they gave it to me as a freelancer. It was like, oh, that was my first foray into freelancing. Was that job? Yep, sure.
That is awesome.
Yeah, they gave me the assistant and everything. It was crazy. I was like, okay.
Like, man, this pitch was worth it. Yeah, that's crazy. I actually heard of one of my friends has a buddy that does that. He goes to these big, he was working, he got like offers for all these crazy tech companies, and he'll go to them and he'll do exactly what you did. Like he will walk in there for a job application, pitch his plan, and then the offers he gets, he turns around and he's like, this is what I want for a contract. Mm-hmm. That's such a great, how did you know to do that? Like,
well, it's about self-awareness, man. Like it really, I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of people lack self-awareness, which means they lack self-confidence at times. And if you know what you're bringing to the table, if you know what you can offer, then you're going to go in confident with that energy, with that swag, with that vision to how you can make the company better. It's about presenting them something. Usually they don't even know what they need until you tell them what they need.
Yeah.
And if you come in and you can present it in a way that they can understand it, then there you go. Like a lot of doors open. I mean, that's what digital marketing is. Like anybody can create a Facebook marketing plan. It's not that difficult. But where the money comes in is when you can specifically tailor it to that client. You know their demographics, you know their needs, you know their income, you know their outflow. Like you have to know all of these things. And that's what sets the average person apart from the exception.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. Me and my buddy started doing some of that, we did a little bit of consulting. It was like we started out like no idea, and we just would pitch the wrong prices, pitch the wrong services, and it's like it's no wonder you're doing well in digital marketing now, man. It sounds like you got the sales good. Always go back and do sales if anything. Like that's
always
sounds like you're good.
Always.
Sounds like you're good. The other thing I want to get into is you said you were going to do work on marginalized communities. I know you started a nonprofit. When I hear marginalized communities, I think communities that don't have these well-worn avenues to get into these organizations and institutions that, hold a lot of power or control things. The one that comes to mind here in the U.S. is like a lot of the big universities, marginalized communities don't have these clear avenues to get there. What about working with marginalized communities was important to you? I see that message sometimes on your channel. I know you try to emphasize the travel a lot too, but what's important about that work, and what did you hope to achieve with that nonprofit?
I think for me, the world's taken a drastic shift. No matter where you fall politically, I think we all can agree that there's an issue with empathy globally. That a lot of people don't have the same level of empathy for the less fortunate that we used to when we were growing up, in the 80s and 90s. And it's heartbreaking. But when you have that, you have communities who are being left behind and who are being abused by those in power. And in the case of the United States, it's the African Americans, the Latinos, it's poor people. It's people who are stuck in a cycle of poverty. And you can be from any background. There are plenty of white people who are also in that position. And what I wanted to do through my work, if you look at, for example, my Instagram, you don't see any selfies of me. You see pictures of locations, of people. And if you look at my YouTube channel, it's usually me running my mouth. But I also go out of my way to feature the stories of locals and let them tell their story. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have today is that you have people who are not from these communities, who are not from these countries, telling their stories. You have news anchors who fly in for 24 to 48 hours and then tell us what it's like to be Black in Flint, Michigan. It's like, no. People of Flint tell you the story. And that's what I try to do through my work. When I went to Romania, I had to sit down with the king of the Roma gypsy community, Doru. and it was literally Doru across from me. It was his interpreter who only speaks Romanian and Roma. It was my interpreter who speaks Romanian and English, and it was me who speaks English and no Roma language at all.
Yeah, nothing.
But it was interesting because me and Doru, the conversation that we had, we bonded over that conversation. Even though we didn't speak the same language, we understood poverty, we understood marginalization, we understood abuse, we understood desperation of our community. We understood how our people were being taken advantage of by those who are in power. And that's not an American thing. It's not a Romanian thing. It's a global issue. And I think if you have more people who are exposed to this reality, if you look at Travel Channel, you're not seeing that in Condé Nast or the Travel Channel. Like it's not sexy. It's not sexy at all. So what I wanted to do with my work is I wanted to shine a light on these different communities around the world and my experience traveling the world as a Black male, which is significantly different than your experience as a white male. And so many people always ask me, and my friends who are not people of color, it's like, well, why's your website for Black people? I'm like, no, it's not for Black people. Like, if you look at my content, like I would say maybe, and I go out of my way. I go out of my way to make sure that maybe 20 to 25% of the content I produce is specifically targeted to my marginalized communities or people of color. Outside of that, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. I just did a post about gay pride. I'm not a gay man. I'm a cisgender straight male. But it's important for somebody like me to speak up in support of the community because I would want them to speak up in support of me. So it's important for my work in a roundabout way. It's important for me to do what I do and represent my community as well as I can and expose people to as many communities as we can because I want to reestablish empathy in people's heart and give us an opportunity as a species to just grow together.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And when you talk about it not being sexy, I think that's kind of interesting because, you know, there's all these initiatives. I'll give you an example that just came to mind. There's all these initiatives to bring, you know, the best software engineers from everywhere in the world to Silicon Valley. And there's all this work to equalize the playing field so that the best software engineers can get in the next billion-dollar company. And there's not really as much of an effort to pull all these, you know, marginalized communities, just as an example, together and maybe share some of what they learned on how to, you know, get people out of lack of connections, lack of ability to have the same advantages people in non-marginalized communities have. How do you think that can change? Do you think there's a way that can change or any way you can unite some of these communities to have a little bit more political influence, like, you know, some of the other communities I mentioned?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a really good question because, but there's no silver bullet to this. And the problem is that you have internal and external factors that hold marginalized communities back. And let's talk about both, okay? Let's talk about the internal struggle is specifically, let's say, Latino and African Americans communities that I'm a member of and understand, is that there's this despair where you have the great machine, you have this system that has consistently told you you're less than, that has consistently put these roadblocks in front of you, that has underfunded the schools, underpoliced the communities, and let crime run rampant, introduce drugs and all these things into these communities in an effort to control them. And the community listens, okay, well, it is what it is. How can we fight this? How can just me fight this? You know, when you have communities where there's no father figure in the household and these systems that are constantly breaking down these families, it's frustrating. Then you get into the communities of illegal immigrants, for example, who are terrified to ask for help from the authorities for fear of being deported, having family separated, things like that. You know, we're scared to apply for a grant because then you have to put your name on a form. It's internal things like that are holding communities back. And then you have the external factors, the things that some people would like to deny, but the reality is there are external factors in place that limit the growth of a lot of communities, or make it easier to perpetuate the cycle of poverty. I think, man, I honestly, it's twofold. I think individuals in the communities have to take an individual stance and try to better their circumstance. I think there should be more programs to target these communities and find the truly exceptional and right and bring them up. But again, there's no silver bullet, man. There's really no silver bullet. But I think it all starts with effort and empathy. Effort and empathy. If people inside and outside of communities make the effort to help elevate them, and having the empathy to say, okay, maybe we could do a little more to help these people out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or even consider that possibility. You know, one thing you said I think is interesting. I had a friend that we talk about this once in a while. Is we feel like, you know, learned helplessness is kind of this big epidemic where people feel like they can't change their circumstances. You know, and it's the way you describe that. It sounded to me like in some of these communities, it's like people are starting out with this deficit of learned helplessness, where like they've more or less been brainwashed for their whole life, and, you know, real and apparent barriers that they're being told they have or they actually do have. You know, that seems like in most people that would create that sort of sense of learned helplessness. Do you think there's any way, you know, programs like your nonprofit or, you know, any type of thing? One thing that comes to mind is all the availability for like people to do what you're doing, start online businesses. How do you think people can, you know, get into something like what you're doing? Do you think that's an avenue for maybe people to relieve some of that and start to feel like, you know, they have control of their life?
Well, I think I think I'm a unicorn in a lot of ways. I have a reckless abandonment. A friend of mine, Ernest White III, calls it reasonable recklessness. Where I have no problem with taking these risks, because I have nothing. Because in my head, I've got nothing to lose. I'm a black man. But I mean, how much worse can it be? I mean, and it's but that's how my brain. That's how I think. And it's interesting for me because I am so glad I grew up young, black, and poor in Cleveland. I'm so glad that I grew up that way, as opposed to having a silver spoon in my mouth in Dallas or something like that, because it gave me a perspective on the world that I think gives me a level of empathy and clarity to what real life is. It's when I go to Haiti, when I go to Thailand or Cambodia or Romania and I see poverty, I get it. I understand. I don't look down on people. I interact. I go into these communities, and it's given me some of the most amazing experiences and friends in my life, because that's where I'm from. Because poverty gets poverty. You understand it. When you understand what it's like to be broke, when you've been broke, you get it. And you have a different kind of fire. You know, a lot of people run towards money. And for me, I run away from poverty. I don't run towards money. I run away from poverty. I'm like, yo, I know what that's like. I know what that's like, but I'm not afraid of it. You see what I mean? I'm not afraid of that. And I think that's what a lot of people in our community, anybody who wants to follow in my footsteps or the footsteps of anybody who's been successful, don't be afraid to be broke. Don't be afraid to look broke. It's I don't know where I saw the quote, but it goes something like, the goal is not to look rich. The goal is to be rich. So you don't have to look like you're successful and have all this money and all this success, but it's to be successful. And you have to figure out, you have to have the self-awareness to understand, what is that for you? Now, maybe it is $1 million house and 2 Mercedes Benzes, or maybe it's sitting on a beach in Bali, or maybe it's, you know, working at a hostel in Romania, or maybe it's selling coconuts in the Dominican Republic, or maybe it's starting the next Tinder or Uber or Facebook. But it all comes back to self-awareness and drive motivation. Hard work beats talent every single time. There's so many more talented people than me who I am significantly more successful than because I outwork everybody.
Yeah.
I understood that quickly. I would never be a pretty, slim, big boobed white girl on Instagram and have 1 million followers. That will never be me. I can't.
Probably out of the cards, Eric.
I can't play that game.
Yeah,
I have to know that about myself. I have to be aware of that. So when you know the rules of the game, you can get around them. I'm like, okay, I'll never be able to walk around in a bikini and get 1 million followers and get these big brand deals. But what I can do is I can provide content of substance. I can entertain and educate people. I can show people the best photo techniques. I can show the people the coolest cultural destinations. I can show what this community is really like. I can show the reality of this to people. And that's where I should be able to shine. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of figuring out where you fit. And I caution people to try to take my route. My route was chaos. Like, it still is chaos. Man, I have no idea where I'm going to go in the next 18 months. There's literally 7 places that I know, and it's only because I'm socially obligated to be in these spots. Yeah. But outside of that, I have no idea where I'm going to go. And anybody who's watching this or listening to this that wants to get out of their circumstance, have this self-awareness or develop it and figure out what it is that you truly want to be happy, not what everybody else thinks that you should be doing. What is it that you want to truly do with the rest of your life to be happy? And do that. And if you can't do that right now, don't worry about it. Don't worry, don't sweat it. But make sure every single day you're taking steps towards it. Taking steps towards that. If you want to be a bodybuilder, you got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You got to eat. You're not going to win Mr. Olympia tomorrow, but you got to build up to that. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that the younger generation coming up, the new digital nomad millennial craze, the younger millennials, is they don't have patience. They want everything now. It's a world of instant gratification. And I think those of us, who are in our early to mid 30s are part of the problem. Is we created this. We created Facebook. We're the ones. We created Instagram. We created this instant gratification culture that's damaging the younger generation. But I caution anybody who's trying to get out here to be a digital nomad, to be able to sustain this as somebody who's been doing this for 6 years and going. You have to have self-awareness. You have to have humility. You have to have a ridiculous work ethic. And you have to not be afraid to be broke.
Yeah. Yeah. Not being afraid to be broke is interesting. Man, I had a question about something else you said, but before I forget this, what do you mean exactly by that? Not being afraid to be broke? Do you mean not being afraid to look bad to other people, like not being afraid to have those failures or take risks, or is there something else?
Yeah, it's multifaceted. It starts with don't be afraid to look broke in front of your friends or in front of girls or guys or whatever. Like, I come from the baller culture. I grew up with No Limit and Bad Boy, and like I was raised by Puff Daddy. Like that's where I come from. Where you fake it till you make it culture. Don't fake it till you make it. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it. And if you're faking it, you ain't never gonna get it. So don't be afraid to look poor in front of your friends. The next part of that is invest in yourself. And that can be expensive. For example, I'm a photographer and a videographer. That's what I am. That's what I do. All the money I make from videography and photography goes back into videography and photography. New gear, going to different new locations, goes into new training programs that I like to. If I see something I want to learn it, either I'll pay to learn it or I'll put time into it. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. If you want to be a musician, you're going to need lessons, or you're going to need new guitars or pianos. You have to invest in yourself, and that's expensive. That means you can't go to the club every weekend. You can't have the newest car, clothes. You can't go drinking all the time. There's sacrifices. And I think so many people want to have it all, and you cannot. I'm just being real. You can't have it all. You have to eat ramen noodles sometimes. Yeah. You have to live on potatoes. Like that's it. It's funny. My ex-girlfriend used to make fun of me for this. But my favorite meal is garlic, onions, and potatoes.
Yeah.
My favorite meal, because I grew up eating that because we were poor. Because that's what it is.
You're like, it's simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's simple. And we had this other dish called dirty rice. It's literally ground beef and rice. That's what it is. It's ground beef and rice. If I had to eat that every day, it wouldn't bother me one bit. One bit, because I'm used to that. I'm okay with being broke because I know that the money that I save between eating potatoes and steak goes towards something else. It goes towards when I'm 50 and I'm ready to like, okay, it's time to get off the road, slow down a bit. You know, time to, you know, put up a fence over here. I want to fly business class instead. You know, like I'm at a point in my career where if it's over 12 hours, I only fly business class. Why? Because sometimes I eat potatoes instead of steak.
Yeah. No, I like that. I love that. And I love how you said, oh man, you said this earlier, and it's so true. I've heard it said in a million different ways, but you know, you're constantly having these messages thrown at you at what success is. I know in my life, I've put ridiculous amounts of time and effort into things that I was doing just to look good for other people that when I stopped and thought about it, maybe years later, it wasn't something I actually truly wanted in my own life. And I think it's so true what you said, that you have to have that self-knowledge to know, like, what do you actually want? Like, if you're sitting in a quiet room without your friends and the TV and your fucking Instagram feed telling you what you want in life, what do you actually want? What's your plan to get there? So, like, what game did you have to walk away from? You got into it a little bit, you know, that the whole culture from the 90s, whatever. You know, what game was it that people were telling you you were supposed to be playing that you had to say, you know, I'm not going to pursue this because I want these other things, you know, because it looks like you're winning now at the game you have chosen. So.
Oh, it's easy for me. It was politics. That's what it was.
Okay.
So I was in the state of Texas. I was being groomed as the conservative Obama. I was working for the Travis County Republican Party. I was a conservative. I was a Republican, and I was doing community outreach for them and media relations. So I did like panels, I did client training. I actually ran a candidate state senate campaign, so I was also a campaign manager. I was being groomed for office. I was going to go to law school, and then I was likely going to be in politics. I mean, easily was happening. And I saw myself in politics. I really did. I saw myself in politics. Helping people. And as time went on, as I interacted more with politicians, I'm like, man, you guys are all assholes. Like, all of you guys. Like, yeah. No, I say that in jest. Like, I know some really cool politicians. But I mean, this was when McCain, this was under McCain, who I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times. And just having conversations with John McCain and a few other, Governor Perry, who was in the state of Texas, just interacting with them and seeing the stuff that they had to deal with, not only as politicians, but as people. I'm like, I don't want any of this. I don't want none of that. Like, yeah. I can't toe the party line for anybody, for Democrats or Republicans. I can't be that guy. I can't be a pawn. And it was clearly what I was at the time. And I said, you know, this isn't for me. And I'm still great friends with a lot of people I worked with back then. But that's where I was being groomed. And I was like, nope, this is not what I want to do. I want to create something that I care about, I'm passionate about, and I think can help people. So that's where Minority Nomad really came from.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting, man. Because I know, like, UT is a good school. You know, if you already have people you're talking with in politics, it's like, man, you should to take the LSAT, get out to some good law school, and you'd be on your way. So
ABC
how did you?
Story on that, actually, it was hilarious. Yeah.
You what?
ABC News did a story on me called "Young Black and Republican."
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, that seems like. It seems like you talk about it now where you're like, you know, I just made the decision. Was there ever a point where that was hard to walk away from? Because that's a lot of interesting stuff. You know, people are probably really excited for you. Like, oh, this is great, Erick. Yeah. Go do that.
Yeah. You know what? It wasn't. One of the blessings of my upbringing was, I was given a level of self-awareness. It's like, if you suck, they'll tell you, my family will tell you you suck. Like, yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating anything in my family. And I had an uncle who would always, one of his favorite sons, like, yo, man, you're not built for this. Like physically, mentally, like, you're not built for this life. And throughout my life, I always saw people in positions they aren't built for. Like, you're not built for this lifestyle. And for me, and it was great because I had an opportunity to see government and politics at the highest level. You know, when I saw Obama campaign, and I saw Clinton campaign, I saw McCain with Palin. I met them at the highest level, and I was blessed to see, like, okay, yeah, I'm not built for this. I'm definitely not built for this. So yes and no. It was hard to walk away from because it's lucrative. I mean, it's lucrative. And I firmly believe that I will be in a position where I would be at least making 6 figures a year easily. But to be perfectly honest, nah. Like, because I know the personal sacrifice it would take. And yeah, I wasn't about that life.
Cool. No, totally. Was the last question about this is so interesting is,
go ahead. I got time, man.
What was it that you saw where you were like, you know, this is not for me? Anything in particular?
I'll specifically tell you about Senator McCain. There were some things, and I can't specifically say what. And I think if people read his book, I think people will pick up on what it was. There were things that Senator McCain was forced to do, and I have great respect for John McCain. I met him before when I was actually in the military. He would always come to base, always. You always saw Senator McCain at military stuff, and I had great respect for him as a military man and whatnot. And to see some of the decisions that he was forced to make, some of the things that he was kind of forced to say, that I knew for a fact he wasn't 100% behind. When we were doing media training, I was doing media training with Republicans and Democratic candidates, saying the same exact thing. You know, always take your message back to the 3 key points that you want to say. It was crazy to me that people were giving up their morals. People were giving up their personal beliefs and for the benefit of the party. And I'm like, nah, I talk too much. I just talk too much. I'm too fucking honest. I'm like, if it's stupid, if it's ridiculous, I'm gonna call it out. And I would constantly get myself in trouble. And at that high level, it could get really ugly. So I'm like, yeah, I definitely don't want to be in that position.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's pretty wild what people have to do for those kind of positions. Let's see. So I really appreciate you sharing some of that too. That was like really interesting stuff. I don't usually get into, you know, stuff as deep as like people's motivations for their work. So I appreciate that because I know people starting different lifestyle, it's huge. Back to some of the light content. What do you think is some of the like best type of work? Because you've been traveling now for a while. You've recruited some people to work with you. You know, if guys are looking at you and they're like, man, I want to travel, manage my own schedule, and just get out of where I'm at. What type of skills do you think are the best to start with?
Well, I think the first skill is just hard work. I mean, a work ethic. But I think a lot of people think they work hard, but they don't. I mean, it's really, if you're in your early 20s, early to mid 20s, and if you're not working, 12, 13, 14 hours on top, you're not working. You ain't working. I'm sorry. That's the very first thing. You got to have an insane work ethic. You have to, and that's the very foundation of anything else I'm about to say. I would say you have to develop a skill that's really in demand, and digital is really in demand. Digital content creation. But when I say this, when I say in demand, that means you have to be fucking amazing too. Because as time goes on, as a year goes by, the people who are very talented in these things are getting younger and younger, and it's a lot more of them. Like, if you look back, say even 5 years, let's just say 5 years, coding wasn't as big 5 years ago as it is today. There are a lot more people who know how to code today. Like,
Yeah.
I was blessed. I don't know how to code for MySpace, like trying to make music play on my MySpace page.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are really legit learning how to do CSS and Java. Like, people are proper learning how to code in high school now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So for you just to show up and like, I want to travel the world, be a coder, it's not as lucrative as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And this is something that pisses me off about a lot of these digital nomad gurus out here. And I should probably create a whole website series calling these cats out. Like, they're using antiquated information. They're giving you courses based on information from 5, 6, 7 years ago when we first started, which isn't good anymore. Like, once upon a time, if you were on the bandwagon of Facebook ads at the beginning, you were making 6 figures a year easily because there was no competition. There was nobody else doing it. If you were a travel blogger 5, 6, 7 years ago, there was no competition for you. If you were a YouTuber 4 or 5 years ago, traveling the world, you had no competition. But now there's a lot of competition. So what you have to do is, and there's no easy answer to this for anybody, you have to find something that you can be amazing at if it's a saturated market, or you have to put your time into creating something that somebody else hasn't created yet, which is a lot harder. Now, granted, you do have your more straightforward paths, like teaching English, which is a tried and true 50-year method of traveling the world. But the problem with that is it doesn't pay very well. A lot of the places that you want to be don't have an English teaching industry. And a lot of people suck as teachers.
Yeah.
So there's that. When it comes to stuff like FBA, fulfilled by Amazon stores, which is extremely popular, was actually being promoted, you got to realize that if you don't find a hot product, you might not make enough money to be able to travel the way that you like. There's a reason everybody's up in Chiang Mai, because Chiang Mai is cheap and easy. You don't see a lot of people selling on Amazon who are living in London or New York City. I mean, that's just the truth of it. And, you know, it's not me, and guys, anybody who listens to this or...
That's a good reality check.
Please don't take this as me being a dick or being negative or anything like that. I just hate seeing digital nomads or people who want to be digital nomads come out here with these unrealistic expectations of what it's like. It is fucking hard. It is very, very, very hard. And I was blessed to start at a time where all of this was kind of new.
Yeah.
If you're coming now, man, it's rough. It's really rough out here. So make sure you come out here with a plan, at least a plan for the first year on how you're going to feed yourself, how you're going to pay for your travels and get around. And when those opportunities come up, jump on them. Jump on them. And make sure whatever you're doing it better than everybody else, or at least striving to be better. Every single day, you should try to fail. Every single day. You should fail at something. If you're not failing every single day, you are not trying and you are not growing. That's what you have to do. That's probably my best advice. Every single day, try to fail at something.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, it's just like playing the numbers game. It's like you're gonna not fail eventually the more at bats you have, so you might as well get to it.
Yeah. A good batting average in MLB is like 360.
Yeah.
360. That's 36%. You hit the ball.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good batting average.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. That's a good. This could put in
great batting average, actually. That's like an MVP batting average, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like serious. Man, so I asked you a lot about your work. I just have a couple more questions. What like, if you have any resources, are there any like books, blogs, mentors, courses that you'd recommend to people just getting into this that have just been like home runs for you? They're great.
Yeah. So I think for me, for me, old school, Art of War, actually. Art of War, there are two books that kind of make up the foundation of how I do business. The Art of War and Principle-Centered Leadership. And I would say the 48 Laws of Power thrown in there just for fun, which is one of my favorite books. 48 Laws of Power is one of my favorite reads of all time. And I think, picking up books like that, don't pick up no self-help books or guru stuff. Just pick up tried and true books like those, which give you foundational information about life and people interaction. I think places for skills, specific skills. I love Linda. I'm a big fan of Linda. Coursera is really good. Udemy is okay. YouTube, I love YouTube. Yo, you can learn anything on YouTube, which is why I love YouTube.
Yeah.
You can learn anything on YouTube.
Mind blowing. It's crazy.
But I think it's also a matter of knowing what you want to do. I think it's beautiful. We live in a world where you could be a 14-year-old that's good at a video game and make thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. That's the world we live in. I think it's important to figure out what you want to do, what you love, what you're passionate about, and seek out information about that. You want to be a blacksmith. I'm sure there's like a blacksmith school. I don't know where it is, but I'm sure it's out there.
Some great YouTube channels.
Yeah, and YouTube, I know there are YouTube blacksmith channels, got some cool stuff actually. But I think one of the best piece of advice I could give anybody is seek out as much information and training and whatever you want to do as possible. Find somebody that's doing what you want to do and ask them, can you follow them? They're like, I remember, there's this photographer in New York. And back then, I actually started my photography career as a wedding and beauty photographer. That's how I started making money as a photographer. Yeah. And I reached out to him and I was telling him like, oh man, I love what you do. I'm thinking about going into photography, wedding photography full time, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, look, man. This was after a few emails. He was like, hey, if you want to come up here, you can come up here and you can work as a second shooter for me for as long as you want. Just got to come up here. And this is one of the best wedding photographers in the country. And I'm like Doug is a brilliant wedding photographer. And he literally, out of an email, I just reached out and said, hey man, I love what you do. I would appreciate any tips or pointers. And we were going back and forth. He said, I would love to have you if you could come up. Ultimately, I didn't go, but it came from me asking. Just asking somebody who was doing what I wanted to do, could he help me out? And like, look, man, I'll do whatever you need. I'm up for whatever. Like, I can pay you whatever. He was like, yeah, I would love to just come up here if you want, and just as long as you need, and you can second shoot for us. That's and awesome. Like, for me, it's a matter of, and this goes to my work. Mm-hmm. One of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody sends me an email that says, hey, I want to do what you do. What should I do? And I'm like, yo, man, I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. You're not giving me anything to work with. Or this, I get this all the time. Hey, I want to take a 2-week vacation to somewhere. Where should I go? Like, yo, you have to help me help you. Like, if I see that you haven't done the very basic work, why should I give my time to you? Mm-hmm. Because anybody who's doing what you want to do, their time is extremely valuable. Mm-hmm. Kanye West, his time is extremely valuable. Mm-hmm. Gary Vaynerchuk, who I love, time is extremely valuable. Mm-hmm. You have to give these people a reason or a motivation to help you. And one of the greatest motivations is seeing that you're working your ass off to achieve a goal. And a lot of us started in these places. We all started, most of us started, man, y'all heard my story. Like, I came from nothing. So somebody reaches out to me who's also coming from nothing, who's grinding, who's busting their ass, who's trying to make something of themselves. Man, I'll always get my attention and help where I can. Mm-hmm. So going back to your original question, no matter what you want to do, no matter where you're from, seek out people who are doing what you want to do. And outside of that, find the resources, find the books, find the videos, find the classes for you to learn whatever it is you want to learn.
Yeah. No, totally. I love that advice. The last question I have is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have, or you'd like to just mention to people?
Uh, oh man, I think we covered pretty much everything. I mean, I think, for me, and this is specifically for digital nomads, right? Like people want to be digital nomads.
Yeah.
I think it's heartbreaking because, it's angering to see so many people being taken advantage of. If you look at my work on any of my sites, I'm very rarely paid. I rarely post paid work. Sometimes I do for things that I love, but it's very rare to see. I don't sell courses. I don't advocate for any platforms or anything like that. I'm not trying to sell you shit. I want to see as many people live their dream as possible, because I think that the more people who are happy and smiling and successful, the better the world is. One of the biggest reasons I likely will never live in the United States is our work-life balance, our culture there, where people work themselves to death. And then you go to a place like Denmark, you go to a place like Germany, come to a place like Thailand, where people don't live to work, they work to live, or take care of their families and have fun, where it's not the centerpiece of their life. Hey, what do you do? I work for this. Like, hey, I'm Eric. I work. Like, no. Hey, I'm Eric. I travel the world. I interact with people. I love photography. I love salsa dancing. I love cognac. Like, that's the things that I want people to be able to say about themselves. Not be defined by what you do for a living, and not be defined by how much money you make. Just be defined by being happy and be defined by doing the things that you love. So when I see people taking advantage of that pursuit of happiness, of people who are trying to find their place in the world, I get frustrated. So I say, you don't need to buy these courses. You just need to find yourself.
That's so interesting. I've heard someone else that's a marketer that's really big on helping people start what he calls authentic businesses say almost the exact same thing, particularly about the courses. It's unfortunate the way a lot of that stuff's marketed. Well, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and cut the recording and we can chat after, but I want to thank you. I really appreciate you coming on to talk to people and give some of your advice.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate it. Anybody who wants any extra information or help, just hit me up, minoritynomad.com, at Minority Nomad, everywhere. Minority Nomad, you can find me on the internet. I'm easy.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course, man.